Describe your views on the legitimate role of civil government.
It's follow the Constitution. We take an oath. They take an oath. So it's to limit government to its proper function of securing our rights, not running our lives.
Good. And then election integrity. What's your basic view on that subject?
I'm all for it. We need to clean the voter rolls. We need to prevent ballot box stuffing. We need to have transparency. We need to have hand-counted, hand-marked paper ballots in the precinct on election day, and we need full accountability, and all evidence of fraud needs to be prosecuted.
Yeah. What's your view on abortion and pro-life symbol?
I am pro-life. I think life is precious and it needs to be protected, whether they are young or old, or whether they're out here or not. So it's just the right thing to do, and I'm absolutely against any kind of government involvement with financing or promoting abortions.
What is your view on gun rights?
That's an obvious one. We do have a constitution, and by law, it is the supreme law that we have the right to bear arms, and the government does not have the right to tell us not to. So, and they take an oath, so they need to follow it and protect our gun rights.
And what is your view on spending, especially deficit spending with our state budget?
Well, first of all, it's illegal. The Constitution requires us to balance the budget.
Well, they do, but they have bonds they issue to get around that.
Yeah, so all these workarounds, including taking federal money, has got to stop. We need to be financially responsible, and we need to. And 80% of the budget is unconstitutional. So we don't need to be doing this. We need to cut back spending, and therefore we can reduce taxes accordingly.
Good stuff. Any other questions from the audience? Nick, I think your hand went up first.
As a scholar on the Constitution, what's your opinion of the Kentucky-Virginia resolutions of 1798?
You know what he's talking about?
I love them. Yes.
Should Georgia reassert then its right to nullify unconstitutional?
Absolutely. We have to do that. Yes.
As somebody who's clearly versed in the Constitution, you understand the distinction between individual rights and other kinds of rights. With the vaccine mandates that came into effect during COVID, there was something tricky where a corporation is considered a private entity. So traditionally, conservatives would say, well, it's a private entity. They can tell their employees that they have to get vaccinated or they're fired because they're their own corporation. They can do what they want. But very clearly, a lot of people have a problem with this. What are your thoughts on that?
It's a good point, and it is a tricky subject. I think the way to solve that is not to have the government starting dictating what companies do. The problem is deep. The real way to solve it is to, first of all, any entity, a corporation or otherwise, that causes harm should be held accountable for that. There's absolutely no legal basis for the 1986 Act, which gives these companies immunity. We need to nullify that in Georgia, and that's one of the first things that I will do. We nullify that, and if a company, has a requirement that you get vaccinated, that's their right to do, but they should be held accountable. If they're going to do that, well, then they should assume the liability. And that's the best way to stop them, the first thing. The other thing is, we need to promote free enterprise once again. We're losing that. And if we have free enterprise, then you wouldn't be worried so much about losing your job, because there'd be plenty of ways there'd be small businesses, and you could start your own business. There'd be plenty of opportunities. So people that don't want to be subject to, scientific experimentation like that, they would be able to say no and not fear for the ability to provide for their families.
So, follow up on that question, a lot of corporations, especially big corporations today, accept government subsidies, corporate welfare in some form or fashion. If a company is accepting corporate welfare, do you think they ought to be subjected to the same restrictions as the government when it comes to things like forced vaccine mandates?
Well, first of all, I would say let's stop doing that. We don't need to be subsidizing anything. But in the case where it does happen, yes, I think legally we can, for government contracts, things like that, as an interim until we deal with the root cause of these issues, we can impose conditions to try to protect people's rights, because that's what it's really all about, protecting people's rights.
Stuff. All right, any other questions? All right, thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks so much.